Sully connects with A Course in Miracles through themes of trust, guidance under pressure, egoic judgment, trauma replay, humility, and the difference between direct knowing and retrospective analysis. Captain Chesley Sullenberger faces an impossible situation: catastrophic engine failure, almost no time, thousands of variables, and no certainty. In ACIM terms, this becomes a powerful contrast between two modes of mind: reactive fear, thought analysis, quiet inner alignment. The film repeatedly emphasizes that Sully did not merely calculate the landing. He responded from years of embodied attentiveness, intuition, presence, and immediate clarity. ACM would call this something like right-minded listening, not magical voices, not mystical theatrics, more like action arising before egoic panic fully takes over. The ego under crisis tends to fragment. What if? What will happen? What if I fail? What will people think? How do I protect myself? But in genuine presence, action can become startlingly direct. That's one reason the Hudson landing feels almost spiritually symbolic. A soft miracle emerging in the middle of chaos. Not suspension of natural law, but alignment replacing panic. Then comes one of the film's deeper ACM themes: the aftermath. Even after saving everyone, Sully is haunted. Why? Because the ego does not easily accept peace. The mind keeps replaying alternate scenarios. What if I was wrong? Could I have done something else? Did I fail somehow? Was I reckless? ACM speaks directly to this tendency of the ego to use the past for self-attack. The event ends externally, but internally the mind continues rerunning judgment loops. Sully repeatedly dreams of crashing into buildings. Trauma becomes recursive perception. The nervous system keeps reliving possibilities that never happened. ACIM would say the ego attempts to preserve guilt and uncertainty through mental repetition, not because suffering is desired consciously, but because the ego identity is built from vulnerability, doubt, and self-questioning. Then the investigators arrive. This part is fascinating through an ACIM lens. The hearings become a clash between living presence and abstract analysis. The simulations claim Sully could have returned safely to the airport. From the outside, the data appears objective and superior, but the simulations initially remove one crucial factor: human reality, reaction time, uncertainty, embodied immediacy. ACIM repeatedly warns that intellect alone cannot fully grasp living truth when disconnected from direct awareness. The ego loves hindsight certainty because it preserves the illusion of control. Looking backward, the mind says, you should have known, you could have optimized, you could have been perfect, but lived experience is not a clean spreadsheet. There's also a deep ACM lesson around humility. Sully does not present himself as a heroic superhuman. Again and again, he points toward the crew, training, teamwork, circumstance, and shared effort. That matters. The ego wants specialness. I alone saved everyone. But Sully's orientation remains grounded in function rather than self-glorification. ACM distinguishes between grandeur and grandiosity. Grandiosity says, I am extraordinary compared to others. Grandeur says, I can allow something loving and intelligent to move through me. Very different energy. The relationship with co-pilot Jeff Skeels also reflects holy relationship themes. Under extreme pressure, there is cooperation without ego conflict, no power struggle, no drama, just shared purpose. ACM often describes healing relationships as joining in function rather than competing identities. There's also an interesting parallel involving water. The plane lands not on rigid ground, but on the river. Symbolically, water often represents surrender, flow, receptivity, and the unknown. Sully survives not by rigidly forcing the original plan, but by adapting completely to present reality. That's deeply ACM. The ego clings to pre-planned outcomes. Spirit responds now, and the film quietly dismantles another ego myth, that certainty comes before action. Sully acts without guarantees. ACIM repeatedly points toward trust, not as conceptual certainty, but willingness to move without total control. Still, the movie also avoids spiritual fantasy. Sully is shaken, human, affected. That's important. ACIM can sometimes be distorted into emotional suppression. If I were truly spiritual, I'd feel no fear. But Sully shows something more honest. Fear may arise, adrenaline may surge, uncertainty may exist, yet clarity can still move through the situation. The miracle is not emotional numbness, it is non-paralyzed responsiveness. And perhaps the deepest ACIM resonance in the film is this. The investigators keep asking, could he have gone back? But spiritually, the question mirrors something universal. The ego always imagines alternate pasts, better choices, better identities, better outcomes. ACIM keeps returning the mind to this moment instead, not what should have happened, but what is here now when judgment stops replaying the past. In the end, the landing on the Hudson becomes almost symbolic of forgiveness itself, an impossible descent made survivable because control gave way to presence.